Gaslight me at my job? Okay, well, I won't always work here. Years ago, I worked for a small nonprofit with a great mission. It helped a lot of people, but the office environment was incredibly toxic. I was there for 6 months and experienced constant gaslighting. There were many petty day-to-day incidents, but the worst happened toward the end of my time there. I made a mistake with something public-facing, and I owned up to it, apologizing profusely. They could have fired me for it, but instead they told me everything was fine and just to be more conscientious moving forward. Surprisingly, I decided to stick it out and prove myself. However, the very next day, my main responsibility was suddenly taken away. When I asked about it, they insisted everything was normal. So I was left wondering what was really going on. A week later, a coworker asked if I was going to the holiday party. I said no, explaining that I was contract to hire and my manager had told me it was for full-time employees only. Then, 2 days later, I received an email from the CEO's assistant asking for my RSVP. It was clear my manager had lied. I was hurt and angry, but at that point, I didn't want to go anyway, so I declined. After the office closed for the holidays, I returned to work as usual, only to be called into a meeting shortly after. They informed me that due to budgetary concerns, my position had been eliminated and they had to lay me off. All I could say was, okay. I collected references from the decent people there, packed up my things and went home. For some catharsis, I destroyed the company mug they had given me on my first day with a hammer. 6 weeks later, while compiling my work history, I checked the company website and discovered they had a new employee with a suspiciously similar job title and identical responsibilities to mine. By then, I was well past caring about that place and was enjoying my time off. But I filed that information away as a reminder of how poorly they treated me. Fast forward several years. I had established myself in a much better job at a respected company filled with great people. I liked the organization so much that I volunteered on an internal committee led by my friend Michael, where we partnered with local nonprofits for community improvement. During our annual meeting, Michael mentioned my old nonprofit had come up as a potential partner. After the meeting, I asked him if we could talk for a few minutes. I shared everything that had happened to me there, not holding back any details since we were friends. Michael was high up in HR and had a unique perspective on how poorly I had been treated. After our discussion, he reached out to the nonprofit and informed them that we wouldn't be moving forward with a partnership. He even put them on our company's blacklist. They had no idea I was involved, and by not treating me better when I was an employee, they missed out on a huge opportunity. Last I heard, they were struggling to stay afloat. Meanwhile, I was up for a promotion. Living well is definitely the best revenge. I told my neighbors my brother is dating their minor daughter, and now everyone hates me. Before you judge, let me explain. I saw them kissing, and I couldn't just sit back and wait to see if it went further. My brother has a troubling history, and I wasn't about to give him the chance to cover it up. I'm 24, and my brother is 25. We have family dinners every Sunday. Recently, he came over excited about a girl he met named Anne. He described her as beautiful and mentioned they had been talking for a few months. But when I asked more about her, he got distant, which struck me as odd. The next morning, I noticed him talking to our neighbor's daughter, and it seemed innocent at first. But then I saw them walk behind the fence, and my instincts kicked in. I checked the cameras and saw them kiss. The problem? She's just 16. Her name is Marianne, and I felt sick. I had babysat her when she was a baby. She still felt like a child to me. I told my parents, hoping they'd intervene, but they dismissed it as a harmless crush. Frustrated, I decided to speak to her parents. When they found out, they were furious and threatened to call the police. Now my parents are angry with me, saying I ruined my brother's life over something trivial. But I knew it wasn't harmless. They were kissing, and who knows what else might have happened. After an exhausting argument, I returned home, and my phone blew up with calls and texts from friends and family. Only my aunt and a few close friends supported me. The rest called me names and accused me of being jealous, which couldn't be further from the truth. I'm engaged to someone my age, so that wasn't the issue. I wondered if I was wrong for alerting her parents. I didn't want to fall out with my brother, but I couldn't ignore what was happening. She was being taken advantage of, and I felt compelled to act. Later, I learned from her parents that my brother wasn't the only one she was involved with. They discovered she had been arguing with another girl over him. They thanked me for coming forward and mentioned they were getting her therapy, not as punishment, but to help her. They would monitor her phone and laptop to prevent further contact with him. To those who say I should have left it alone, I ask, should I have waited for something worse to happen? What if she had gotten pregnant? My brother knew what he was doing was wrong. He hid the relationship for a reason. I want to thank everyone who assured me I did the right thing. I wish I could save every girl from making the wrong decisions. For now, I'm distancing myself from my family, except for my aunt and her husband. I can't be part of this cover-up. My brother was wrong, and my parents were wrong for trying to protect him. This isn't the first time he's crossed a line, and I hope it's the last. Satisfying resignation. When I was a student, I had a few rough casual jobs. One of them involved waking up at 5 a.m. to sort deliveries for a paper shop. I'd start my day by parking at the owner's house to pick up the van, then drive to the shop to sort through about 500 to 700 papers and up to 300 magazines. I had a lengthy list to tackle in a short amount of time. I wrap personal deliveries in cling wrap and organize orders for corner stores into separate boxes. My goal was to deliver efficiently, tossing papers onto lawns or handing them over at shops. It wasn't a great job, and mistakes meant angry calls from shops or customers. The owner had a specific number of pickups he wanted, and always wanted to ensure he had enough stock for walk-in customers. I had to deliver to shops and individuals, and by 6 a.m., I was already on the road for about 4 hours. If the printers shorted their deliveries, I had to take the heat from corner stores, all to make sure the owner never ran low on stock. To top it off, he underpaid me by about 2 hours for every shift. I worked weekends and asked him to pay me correctly for 15 weeks, but he only slowly increased my pay, giving me about a third of what I was owed every few weeks. I'm not one to get angry quickly, but I was frustrated. Then he told me I had to wash the van out of my own pocket before returning it because he was trying to sell it. The van was starting to need repairs, and I doubted I'd get reimbursed for the car wash. When he called me after my shift one Sunday to scold me about the van not being washed, that was the last straw. I didn't quit on the spot, but I fumed about it for a couple of days before making my plan. The following Saturday, I decided to sleep in. When the first corner store reported missing deliveries, the owner called and asked if I knew what time it was. I replied, yes. He asked if I knew what day it was, and I said, yes, it's Saturday. Then he wanted to know why I wasn't at work. I told him, because I'm not coming. You've shorted my pay almost every week since I started. He asked who would do the deliveries, and I responded, why should I care? Am I coming in tomorrow? He asked. I said, absolutely not, and gave him a moment to process it before telling him to delete my number. Later, I visited the corner stores and explained how he often shorted their orders to keep his stock high and that he wasn't paying his delivery drivers. I advised them to reach out to other paper shops for their orders. About 4 months later, the shop closed permanently. I like to think I played a small part in that by tarnishing his reputation, but that was the most satisfying way I've ever left a job. Another update. My girlfriend came home in just her underwear after her company Christmas party. It hasn't been going well. My girlfriend found out I called her, which I expected, but I didn't anticipate it getting this bad. She came home screaming, saying I jeopardized her career and that everyone at her work was asking if she found her wallet. I defended myself, pointing out that she brought this on. What was I supposed to do? I was worried about her safety. She doubled down on her story about being sick. I told her I knew it was a lie, and that I was aware dinner ended hours before. That only made her angrier. She insisted she met her friends right after, and when I asked her to show me the texts, I realized that was a mistake. Instead of answering, she accused me of going through her phone. I knew I was wrong, but I had done it out of concern for her. She called me an idiot and said I should have just listened. Then she said she was done talking and that I ruined everything. I tried to explain I was only trying to make sure she was okay, but she had nothing else to say. The more I pressed, the more she shut down. By that point, she was crying and went to the bedroom, locking the door. I tried talking to her from outside, but she ignored me. She spent the whole night in there, and I didn't sleep at all. I was still trying to figure it all out. Maybe she was telling the truth. But if that were the case, why such a huge reaction? The next morning, I tried talking to her again, but she wouldn't budge. She took a shower, got dressed, and left for work without breakfast. I had to leave too, carrying this weight with me. I texted her from work, but there was no response. I felt guilty for invading her privacy, but I still wanted to know the truth. I considered calling her friends to put an end to the guessing, but I decided against it. When she came home that night, she was still angry, not carefree like before. After getting dressed, she said she was going out. When I asked where, she told me I should just investigate and left. I started to wonder if I was being too untrusting. Maybe she thought I was controlling, which is why she hadn't told me about the after party. I could accept that if I just knew where her dress was. If her friends had it, that would make sense. Maybe she didn't want to drive home in it if something happened. But why would her friends let her drive in the first place? That didn't add up. I thought about calling her friends, but that would just prove her right. It felt like she set a trap where I'd lose no matter what. I sat with these thoughts and decided to do nothing. She came home around 11 p.m., looking fine, her hair still neat. She didn't say a word all night. I realized I couldn't salvage this anymore. I would accept that she still wasn't telling the truth. And I'd never find the dress. I decided to keep my dignity and not call her friends. I knew I could find out if I did, but I felt like it was a gamble I should walk away from. I'm going back to my original plan and leaving in a few days. I might be being watched. Today, just as I was about to jump in the shower, I heard an Android phone notification go off. The problem is, I have an iPhone. The sound was so clear that it had to be coming from inside the room. This isn't the first time I've experienced this. A while ago, I heard an Android notification while I was in the bathroom, and despite searching for a hidden phone, I found nothing. At first, I thought I might be imagining things, but deep down, I know I heard it. I live with my parents and uncle in an apartment, so it's entirely possible someone could have left a phone in the bathroom on purpose. A couple of months ago, I noticed a tiny blue dot blinking at the bottom of my closet. It was there for just a second before disappearing. I looked around but found nothing. I tend to be pretty laid back, so I brushed it off. But I can't shake the feeling that something strange is happening. I'm reaching out for suggestions on how to find a hidden phone. I've already looked around, but I didn't find anything. Maybe I'm just going crazy. I posted this to find the phone, and I appreciate everyone's suggestions. I won't be updating for a while since some people think I'm making this up. If I find proof, I'll definitely tell my family. I can't let someone keep videos of me without my knowledge. For now, I plan to stay with a friend and hope to move out soon. Update. I found the phone. This morning, I heard it again in the bathroom and discovered it peeking out from the top of a shelf. It wasn't hidden at all, and I swear I looked there before. It had 2% battery left and died right after I found it. This phone belonged to my mom, and while I suspected my uncle, I'm not so sure anymore since his phone and this one had the same ringtone. Whenever I try to talk about this with anyone, I get dismissed. I spoke to my cousin and boyfriend. But they keep asking if I'm sure, saying no one would do that. It's incredibly frustrating. Finding the actual phone means I wasn't just hearing sounds from another room. I truly believe someone in this house is leaving that phone in there for something malicious. Everyone has their own privacy in their rooms, and my uncle has his own space that no one goes into. My parents live together for my sake, so my dad has no reason to hide anything from her. He has plenty of places to store a phone where no one would find it. For now, I put the phone back, but there was no SIM card in it, and I don't know the password. I suspect they know I started looking for it and left it out for me to find. I'm sharing pictures of the phone and how I discovered it. My parent was way too attentive about me masturbating when I was a kid. Maybe it was weird, I guess I have to admit it now. Some things happened when I was a kid, and I'm not sure if they were actually bad or not. This is a burner account because just acknowledging what happened back then is a challenge for me. I desperately need to hear someone's thoughts after years of denial. To start, my family was a mess. My parents were in a loveless marriage, constantly fighting. My mom would cry quietly in my room at night, feeling trapped in a marriage she thought she couldn't escape. I was bullied relentlessly by my older brother, whom I loved and adored. It was a sad situation. It's uncomfortable to share, but I started exploring my body at a young age, around 5. I knew it was something unusual, but I didn't think much of it. It was just a way to relieve stress. I wasn't aware of sexuality, and I never acted inappropriately toward anyone. I kept it private. Then my father caught on. I think he walked in on me once, but I made excuses and he left. The next time, I was in the bath. I always locked the door, but the locks weren't very secure. He walked in and simply said, "Stop doing that," before leaving. Later, when I came out of the bathroom, he approached me and said, "You should stop doing that. It's bad for your health." I felt scared and embarrassed, even though I didn't fully understand what I was doing. I promised to behave. Days later, he asked me, "So, you stopped doing that thing?" I felt incredibly ashamed and assured him I would never do it again. Then my grandmother visited. One evening, when I was about to take a bath, my father told her, "She doesn't know how to shower properly. Please watch over her." So, she helped me wash myself, which felt really strange since I was around 7 or 8 at that time. No one had ever helped me shower at that age. Now, I realize he asked her to keep an eye on me so I wouldn't explore myself. That's when my problems began. For years, until I turned 15, I became paranoid about anyone finding out. I felt overwhelming guilt and shame. I had nightmares about my parents discovering my secret and disowning me, sending me to an orphanage. I thought I was a filthy abomination. Being raised in a religious family, I believed that every time I explored my body, I was drawing closer to eternal punishment. It was awful, absolute torment. Fortunately, my father never brought up anything sexual again. Now, as an adult, I deal with diagnosed mental health issues and struggles with daily life. Many bad things happened in my childhood beyond this story. I wonder if this contributed to my challenges. Was it truly bad? Or am I just overreacting? Is this a normal childhood experience? I really have no idea. They lie to you. As someone working as an IT technician in the educational sector, I see a lot of things. But today was a new experience. Anyone in education knows that exams can be incredibly stressful. With the increasing reliance on technology to support students who struggle academically, tech plays a bigger role in exam provision. The stress only intensifies when you find out you've been misled, and that's where our story begins. It was resit season. Students who didn't perform well 6 months ago were getting a second chance. This meant that those with access needs, like using a word processor or a text-to-speech reader, required special provisions. Typically, they would sit in a computer room with an invigilator and well-tested workstations. But not today. Today, we had a request for a student to be in their own room, which meant we needed to provide a laptop. This was straightforward, since the same software was loaded on all laptops, allowing exams to be conducted almost anywhere. As long as the file could be saved to our network shares, we were good to go. However, with exam accounts, there are strict restrictions. No internet access, no access to certain programs, and limited user areas help prevent cheating. When it came time to print the exams, the usual process involved printing to the local room's printer. Each computer room has its own Loser printer, but with laptops, the process is different. We typically access the exam account's user area on the server to print from there. Except today, the file wasn't there. We checked the laptop, and it showed the file saved to the user area. But when we looked on the server, nothing appeared. The laptop was connected to the network, and everything seemed fine, but the file just wouldn't save. I tried saving it locally on the laptop, but no luck. The accounts were locked down tightly. I checked the share permissions, and they looked fine. Similar accounts had worked correctly just hours before. Then I remembered my own office laptop was the one we were using, since the request for the exam laptop had come in late. This meant it had printers mapped that wouldn't normally be there, including a photo printer in the art office. I rushed to the art office and thankfully it printed, though on cardstock. At least we had something. Next, I needed to find the digital copy. I switched users to log in with an admin account, hoping to find the file in the expected location. But to my dismay, it wasn't there. Whatever Explorer had claimed was saved turned out to be misleading. A search of the C drive yielded nothing. I switched back to the exam account, and the files were still showing as saved from the laptop's perspective. The network share, however, remained empty. I wondered if it was a network issue, but everything appeared connected. Still, I decided to plug in the network cable just in case. I saved the file again, and this time, it appeared on the network share. It wasn't a permissions issue. It was a network glitch. Explorer had misled me. The file was printed, handed to the exam officer, and I was left with the realization that computers don't need artificial intelligence to deceive you. Had to comply before my boss would see that an idea was so stupid it would prevent customers even entering the store. From 1997 to 2004, I managed a chain of record stores. I was known for my hard work, diligence, and the pride I took in my job. My branch ran smoothly, so I was often sent to struggling locations to help them improve. The company even adopted some of my administrative ideas because I found the existing processes inefficient. My opinions were respected until October 2001. I received a delivery of 20 folding tables, described as trestle tables. I was puzzled, but the memo instructed me to set them up on the shop floor and cover them with cheap, red plastic. I couldn't understand why we needed this. Our store had beautiful shelving, and the space was already cramped. Customers often complained about navigating the aisles, and adding these tables would only make things worse. I called my regional manager, Greg, to express my concerns. He thought it was a brilliant idea that would attract customers. I pointed out that we didn't have enough space for even one table, let alone 20. Despite my best efforts to explain, he insisted I comply and said he'd be there in the morning to check. Determined to show him the absurdity of the situation, I stayed late to set up the tables. It took over 2 hours, and I ended up with cuts and bruises. My once beautiful shop floor was now a chaotic sea of red plastic. I made sure there was a small path to the exit, crawling under the tables to lock up. The next morning, Greg arrived early and stared in disbelief at the scene before him. "What have you done?" he asked. I replied, "Exactly what you asked for." I slid up the shutter and crawled back across the floor to disarm the alarm. I shouted to him, "This is what I have to do just to get in. How do you expect customers to shop here?" His eyes widened as he realized the problem. I added, "Actually, this is only 18 of the 20 tables. We could stack the other 2 on top if you want." I had already decided to resign, so I felt free to be a bit cheeky. Greg shook his head in frustration. "Let's just clear this mess up." We both started folding the tables, but the plastic made it difficult. It took us at least 40 minutes to get everything back upstairs, causing the store to open late and annoy customers. Greg spent the next hour on the phone with head office, explaining how ridiculous the idea was and urging them to rethink it. In the end, I had to comply before they could see the absurdity of their plan. My girlfriend 21F and my brother 20 male are soulmates. I've been dating my girlfriend for about 7 months now. We met while working at the same restaurant, and I asked her out. From the start, I realized we were quite different, but that's what drew me to her. Being around her feels like a constant learning experience, and I genuinely try to embrace her interests. 3 months ago, I introduced her to my family, and they all seemed to like her, especially my brother. I was happy to see them get along since I'm very close to him. But over time, I noticed they just clicked in a way that felt deeper than what I had with her. They share so many interests: movies, books, music, sports, you name it. At first, my girlfriend was hesitant to hang out with my brother without me, but I encouraged her to go for it if it was something I wasn't into. They had a great time together. I can't help but feel that they look happier with each other than they do with me. Sometimes I feel out of place when I'm around them, as if I'm intruding on a connection that's meant for the two of them. This isn't jealousy, it's a realization. I love both of them, and if they're happier together, I'd rather step aside. But I'm not sure how to approach this, or even how to talk about it with either of them. How do I set them up without making things awkward? After my initial post, I took a step back to reflect on everything. I realized I struggle with low self-esteem and that it often affects my relationships. I was honest with my girlfriend about my feelings, though I didn't explicitly say I thought she and my brother were soulmates. Instead, I shared that sometimes I felt a disconnect because of our differences. Her response changed everything for me. She told me she loves that I'm different and that I complete her in a way she values. She even expressed a desire to get more involved in my hobbies. Since then, we've been spending time doing things we each enjoy, and it has been wonderful. I've also met her family, and they're lovely people. We still hang out with my brother, and it's a good time. I've come to realize that my insecurities were the root of my worries, not my brother. I enjoy his company because of who he is, and it makes sense that I be with someone who complements my life. Ultimately, I've learned that my girlfriend is so much more than just her interests. There are countless qualities about her that set her apart. I'm grateful for the advice I received and the journey of self-discovery it led me on.